Hello. So, on this chapter, we will be looking at the special senses of the human body. And you might remember that on chapter 13, we already talked about the sense of touch. So, we will not be spending any more time on that on this module. However, before we start, I would like to do an exercise with you. And this will only work as well as you let it to. So give it a go and join me on this journey to senses. What I would like you to do is to have you sit in a comfortable, upright position with your feet planted flat on the ground. Rest your hands on your thighs or on your desk. Just relax. And now, what I would like you to do is to just breathe. Refreshing, comfortable, and even breaths. Don't worry about the technique. Just allow relaxing breaths to enter deeply and exhale fully. It is time to engage each of your five senses, one at a time. The point here is going to be to focus in the present moment and how each sense is being activated in that moment. Let's start. Start to notice all the sounds around you. Give yourself a permission to suspend your judgment of the sounds. They are not good or bad. They just are. Are you now hearing more than you were hearing before we started? Subtle sounds may have previously gone unnoticed. Can you hear them now? Remember to keep doing your steady breaths while you are listening. So that's our hearing. Now, shift your concentration to noticing the smells of your environment. Is someone cooking a lunch in your building? Can you detect the electronic smell of your computer? Or fresh air coming in through your window? Try closing your eyes so you can focus on the smallest of scents. Now, if you closed your eyes a moment ago, open them. Notice the colors, shapes, and textures of your surroundings. If you really look, just about everything has color variation and texture. Those may have gone unnoticed earlier. How many shades of blue or red do you see? Any color missing? Now, let's do taste. You can do this regardless of whether or not you have food to put in your mouth. If you have a snack, go ahead and take a small bite. Notice all the flavors and textures that arise. If you do not have food, just notice your tongue in your mouth, your saliva, and your breath as you exhale. Most of us have tastes in our mouth at all times. Run your tongue over your teeth and cheeks. What do you notice? Keep breathing and focus on this sense. Now, one last to go. Where did you place your hands when you first started this exercise? Notice the sensation of where your hands met something solid, like the fabric of your clothes or the surface of your desk. Notice the pressure between your feet and the floor. Try feeling the textures that you noticed by sight a moment ago. To fully ground yourself in the room and bring this exercise to a close, feel several objects on your desk. And perhaps even stand up from your chair and bring the energy and sensation to all parts of your body. Time is up now. Even when there are distractions, you can gently bring yourself back to your senses. No need to get frustrated if that happened, because distraction is just another example of a particular sense. How do you feel now? Are you back in the moment and back in your body? Compare how you feel now to how you felt at the beginning of this exercise. What has changed? Try this exercise the next time you are trapped in the current of the day. This was a short mindfulness exercise for relaxation and stress relief, but it also served as a great introduction to our chapter on special senses. So, I believe that we were here before the exercise. We had just noted how touch was one of our senses, and I mentioned that we already discussed it in our earlier videos. Now, I would like for us to look at vision, taste, smell, and hearing and balance. So these are the special senses that we will be looking at during this chapter. All of them use special sensory receptors, and we will have a look of them in some detail. So let's start with the first one. Vision is an especially important one, as about 70% of all body sensory receptors are in the eyes. And in fact, about half of the cerebral cortex is involved in visual processing. So let's start by looking at an eye. Eye is basically a small sphere, and you will actually be seeing only about 1/6 of its surface visible. In fact, most of the eye is enclosed and protected by a layer of fat, and of course the bony framework of the orbit. We will see the rich amount of fat around an eye on a dissection video of a cow eye, so keep an eye on that. I know, it was a bad joke. So what is eye made of? It's made of the eyeball and a number of accessory structures. So here we see the surface anatomy of the right eye. Remember, we always talk about the directions in relation to the patient's left or right. The accessory structures of an eye serve a purpose of protecting the eye and aiding its function. And some important ones that we might want to note are the eyebrows, which overlay the supraorbital margins. They shade from the sunlight and prevent much of the sweat from reaching the eye. Then we have eyelids. They are skin-covered folds that protect the eye on its anterior surface. Eyelids blink every 3 to 7 seconds, providing a means to spread secretions to moisten the eye. And they do, of course, protect from foreign objects too. Notice the eyelashes here too. They have nerve endings at the follicle that initiate the blinking reflex to protect our eye. And then conjunctiva, which is the mucous membrane that covers the front of the eye and lines inside the eyelids. It is clear, thin membrane, and in fact, one of the easiest routes for materials to pass to the body. So there is a reason why we wear safety glasses in a science lab. And we have also lacrimal apparatus. This consists of the lacrimal gland and the ducts that drain the tears. These ducts open into nasal cavity. And finally, the extrinsic eye muscles. There are 6 of these, and they run from the bony orbit to the eyeball, being strap-like in their appearance. And of course, their function is to enable us to move the eye. But in addition, they maintain the shape of the eyeball and hold it in orbit. As I said, there are 6 of them. The 4 rectus muscles, superior, inferior, lateral, and medial. And these names indicate the movements that are associated with each. And then we have 2 oblique muscles that move the eye in a vertical plane and rotate the eye. These are the superior and inferior oblique muscles. And if you look back into our discussion of the cranial nerves, we saw that the nerves 3, 4, and 6 were involved with moving the eyes. There are many ways of memorizing these. I use the following one: LR6, SO4, and all others are 3. But you will find your own mnemonic. Now, let's look at the structure of an eyeball. An eyeball contains 3 layers: fibrous, vascular, and inner layers. And the internal cavity is filled with fluids, which are called humors. On this diagram, however, the vitreous humor is illustrated only in the bottom part of the eyeball, as you can see. And it is the lens that separates the internal cavity into the anterior and posterior parts. Let's look at the fibrous layer. This is the outermost layer, and it's made of dense avascular connective tissue. And there are 2 regions to consider here: sclera and cornea. Sclera is the opaque posterior region which protects and shapes the eyeball. It also is where the extrinsic eye muscles, which we just discussed about, anchor to. You might also notice that posteriorly, where the optic nerve exists, the sclera is continuous with the dura mater of the brain, so one of the layers covering the brain. Cornea, then again, is this transparent 1/6 of the fibrous layer at the anterior aspect. It forms a clear window that lets light enter and bends light as it enters the eye. There are numerous pain receptors here to contribute to the blinking and tearing reflexes too. Now, let's have a look at the vascular layer. This is the middle pigmented layer of the eye, and there are three regions to consider. Choroid region, which supplies blood to all layers of the eyeball. And it has a brownish color, with the brown pigment absorbing the light in order to prevent it from scattering. If this was not done, it would then cause visual confusion. Anteriorly, we have ciliary body. It is the thickened ring of tissue surrounding the lens. And it is here where the smooth muscle bundles, known as the ciliary muscles, are. And these muscles control the shape of the lens. And we also have suspensory ligament that extends from the ciliary processes to the lens. Their function is logically to hold the lens in its position. And finally, the last structure that I want to talk with you regarding this diagram is the iris. This is the colored part of the eye, and it lies between the cornea and lens. And notice the pupil, which is the central opening that regulates the amount of light entering the eye. And its diameter is controlled in response to whether we are looking close or far away. And if you remember from our earlier videos, also some drugs and emotional state too had an effect on the iris diameter. So this is really a very useful diagram for us, but I want to show something else too. Here is an actual human eye that has been dissected to reveal the internal structures as cut on a sagittal plane. And notice how all the same structures are present here. I find that it is useful to start with a diagram, but then expand to the real pictures. And you will see something very similar when we look at the dissection of a cow eyeball later on. And I think that we will take a break here before finishing off the vision with another video. Thank you for joining me on this one.